So here we go again. The CW is going to be remaking a show, and Deadline came out with this article that kind of talks a little bit about the show. And I personally don't have a problem with them redoing a Zorro remake. I don't have a problem with them casting a female lead to take over the show. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I do have problems with gender swapping just for gender swapping's sake. But to be honest with you, if the show is good, it's good regardless, right? Even if they do a gender swap, as long as the gender swap is not just for the sake of gender swapping, I don't have a problem with, you know, a female lead. There's a lot of good shows out there that have female leads. There's a lot of good movies that have female leads. So my issue is not with the fact that they're going to be casting a female lead to play Zorro, or in this case, Zorra, which we'll get into the Zorra term in a minute. But I see here, and the article says, Zorro drama with female lead from Robert and Rebecca Rodriguez, Sean Torretta, and propagate in works at the CW. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the CW. Because a lot of their shows are just kind of going downhill. They have a few good ones here and there, but I believe the CW is up for sale, or might be going up for sale. But that's not the problem. Here's where the problem lies, right? Because it says the Young Skewing Network has put in development a gender swap reimagining of the classic masked vigilante character. From filmmaker Robert Rodriguez, writer-director Rebecca Rodriguez. Now, Robert Rodriguez, he has a lot of good films under his belt, right? He does. I've watched a lot of his films. I know a few of his films off the top of my head. I believe he was the one that originally did El Mariachi, which then became Desperado, or the second version became Desperado, which was a heck of a good movie. And then that came out with a third movie after that, which was also pretty good. And again, he's got some good movies under his belt. If you've never seen El Mariachi, I say go back and find it and watch it. If you can find it, watch it. It's actually a really good movie, which is the original film before Desperado. But anyways, this says that it's a young Latinx woman seeking vengeance for her father's murder, joins a secret society and adopts the outlaw persona Zorro. Now, the problem lies in the fact that you're using the term Latinx to describe a woman, right? And here you even say her. So if she's already a woman, it shouldn't even be Latinx. It should automatically be Latina, right? A young Latina seeking vengeance for her father's murder. That would be the correct sentence. That would be the correct way of writing that. There's absolutely no reason for you to put Latinx woman. If you've already identified her as a woman, then it should just be Latina. And that's a huge problem, because you're already putting negativity about this show, at least for the Latin community, which, by the way, it's not a widely accepted term in the Latin community. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at this other article. This other article literally says, many Latinos say Latinx offends or bothers them. Many Latinos say Latinx offends or bothers them. And I'm not gonna go through this article, right? But, and I'll link it in the description below if you guys wanna read it. But if it bothers the Latin community, then why are we using the term? The majority of people who use the Latinx term, right, is literally just part of the people of the LGBTQ community. So it shouldn't be used as an identifier for a whole culture. One, we can't pronounce it in Spanish. I don't know how to pronounce this in Spanish. If you know, let me know. Because in regular Spanish, when I'm talking in Spanish, when I speak Spanish, I wouldn't be able to pronounce this. Because by now, this term should be, by now this term is basically just linguistic imperialism. There's absolutely no reason why the community as a whole should be called Latinx, right? The community as a whole. I understand that there's people that want to use the term, and I'm okay with that. If you want to use the term Latinx to identify yourself as Latinx, go for it. I don't have a problem with that. I think that the term should be included. I just don't think that the term itself, Latinx, should be used to identify a whole entire Latin community. Either way, right? I'm gonna go down here to this one comment because this kind of goes into Spanish dialects too, right? And it's different for every person of Latin culture. We all have different Spanish dialect, which for me, I didn't know this, but this is what this person writes. You can tell no one in this production are truly Latinos. I am laughing so hard. They do not know that if it's a female lead, will be la zorra, a very well-known insult to a woman. It's like calling her a skank. Now, in all honesty, I don't know how true that is. There's so many different dialects and so many different derogatory terms for women in Latin culture. And it varies based by, you know, region and based on what country you're from in Latin America. So if that's true, let me know below, because I had no idea that zorra, right? And I can see it being a derogatory term. I can even see it being as a skank, and I might have heard it when I was younger. I just didn't really pay attention to it. I've never really heard it as I've gotten older. But if that is true, then, you know, you definitely don't want to call your character la zorra. But at the same time, if you're gender swapping just to gender swap, then don't do it. At the end of the day, the term Latinx is not widely accepted by Latinos. I don't accept it. And you know what? I'm not going to say I don't accept the term. I accept the term. I don't accept the term to describe the culture as a whole. I don't accept the term as inclusive as people like to make it out to be. As Americans, right? North Americans, right? Or I should say United Statians, because I don't know about Canada, so I'm not gonna say North Americans. So as United Statians, right? And I'm gonna put that out there now. That is a term that is used predominantly here in the United States of America. Now, are there other places that are trying to push this term? Most likely. But the reality of it is that it's not as inclusive to everybody, because the term Latinx basically excludes anybody who is not Latinx. So it excludes people like me who don't identify as Latinx because I identify as a Latino. It'll exclude any woman that identifies as a Latina. Not to mention, it also excludes people from the LGBTQ community who don't identify as Latinx. You can use the term Latin, which gets rid of the A, gets rid of the O, and there's no need to add an X. And Latin culture, Latin people, Latin community, right? That's all inclusive. And I, for one, know that that is more accepted for you to say that I'm Latin, right? Than anything else. And again, there's also people that don't even use the term Latin, they use Hispanic. And that's all based on where you're from and all that. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because it's a very deep explanation. And, you know, but it's one of those things that some people prefer to use the term Hispanic over Latino or Latina or Latinx, which again, if you want to add the term Latinx to American culture language, then use it to describe yourself. Just don't use it to describe the whole entire culture. But anyways, we'll move over here to Twitter, because this is exactly what people are saying. You know, what self-respecting Latin person uses Latinx? Kind of insulting to an entire culture and language, which again, I said it is. It's insulting to a culture, it's insulting to a language, it's basically linguistic imperialism from people that don't know, right? I'm in college and I hate the term Latinx when people refer to me, and I have to correct them. And then I have people who are not even of Latin descent telling me that I have to accept that term. They're pushing a term on me that is not even part of their culture. They're not even part of the Latin culture. They have no idea what the Latin culture is, but yet I'm supposed to take what they tell me to take and use it because they're telling me to use it. And I refuse to use the term to describe the whole entire culture. And that's why I use the term Latin people, Latin community, Latin culture, right? I'll even throw Latinos in there because at the end of the day, right, Latinos is already inclusive as it is anyway. The only way that it becomes uninclusive and it's only for men is if you actually add the word hombres, right, which is men, Latinos afterward, you know, and then Latinos afterwards. If I say Latinos, that means everybody, whether you're a man, woman, whether you identify as a man or a woman, whether you don't identify as a man or a woman, or whatever it is that you identify as, the term Latino itself is already inclusive. Until I say hombres Latinos, then I'm signifying only men that are of Latin descent. I mean, here's a good one. The moron in the US that doesn't know Spanish, greetings, my Latinx friends, Hispanics. Call me Latinx one more GD time. You know, and I don't, you know, like this one, Latino for men, Latino for women, c'est la vie. Now, I don't 100% agree with that because again, there's people that don't identify as either one, right? So if you want to add Latinx for people who don't identify as cis, add it in. Just don't use it to, you know, to represent a whole entire culture, because it's something that is being forced upon us, right, by people who don't understand our culture, who don't understand our language, who don't understand who we are as a people, and they're forcing this indoctrination to wash the language that we already speak and know. And I understand that if you were born in the United States of America, if you were born in the United States, you may or may not know the language, because again, it's not really taught in school. It's not taught in school, so you may not know otherwise, right? And the only Spanish you may grew up with is whatever you learned at your home. But again, don't allow these people to force terms on our language that have no business being there to include everybody in the culture, because it excludes the same people that it's supposedly trying to include. Like I said, if you're Latina, you identify as Latina. You don't identify as Latinx. If you're Latino, you identify as Latino. You don't identify as Latinx. But if you're not cisgender and you want to use the term Latinx to identify yourself, then go for it. Not a problem, not an issue. I will never have a problem with that. What I have a problem with, and I think where the problem comes, is whenever you're trying to use the term to identify a whole entire community, which, by the way, depending on where you're from, some people may find the letter X as derogatory. It's because you're basically saying that they are nobody. You're practically saying that you're nobody. And like I said, people who are of Latin descent already have barely any representation in mainstream media in the United States of America. And yet, why would we want to term ourselves, our whole entire culture, our whole entire community, under a term of Mr. or Mrs. Nobody? Because we are somebody. If you want to use it again for yourself as Latinx, go for it. I know people of the LGBTQ community that don't identify as Latinx, but if you want to use it, use it. I have no problem with that. Just don't use it to identify the whole entire culture. That's just my 2 cents. If you like this video, let me know what you think. Put it in the comments below. Hit the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And until next time, stay inadequate.